a reward for the terrible atrocities Hamas has committed, as he told the terror group to release the hostages now.
Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire.
It comes after Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper confirmed Britain now recognises Palestinian statehood, warning the two-state solution is in profound peril.
I stand before you today beneath the emblem of the United Nations to confirm the historic decision of the British government to recognise the State of Palestine.
Sir Ed Davey told the Lib Dem conference today not to let Nigel Farage turn the UK into Donald Trump's America. He said the Lib Dems want to transform our economy, our public services and our politics before pivoting to say Nigel Farage wants to change the UK away from the country we love and towards Trump's America. Davey also issued a direct message to disaffected Tory voters thinking of switching away from their traditional party, telling them to join his party to oppose the failing Labour government and offer our great country real change.
Imagine living in the Trump-inspired country Farage wants us to become, where there's no NHS. So patients are hit with crippling insurance bills or denied healthcare altogether. That is Trump's America. Don't let it become Farage's Britain. Conference, I've lost count of the people who've told me they voted Conservative all their lives, but now they switch to the Liberal Democrats. And not just because they feel so badly let down by their old party, but because they see their values reflected best in our party.
The Home Office will seek to deport asylum seeker Hadush Kabatu following his 12-month prison sentence for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. Sources have told GBNews that the process to deport him following his sentencing has already begun. The court heard how the Ethiopian national tried to kiss the girl, put his hand on her thigh and told her he wanted to have a baby with her. He also harassed two other teenagers and another woman. The 38-year-old denied the allegations, calling them fabrications, but the judge said the evidence was clear and consistent. He was sentenced to 12 months in jail after being found guilty on all 5 charges. His arrest earlier this summer sparked protests and counter-demonstrations outside the Bell Hotel in Epping. The Home Office has lost a Court of Appeal bid to challenge a High Court ruling granting an Eritrean man a temporary block on being deported to France. The ruling will be a blow to ministers who'd been hoping to make headway with their one-in, one-out migrant returns deal with France. Under the deal, the UK can send back any migrant who crosses the Channel illegally in return for accepting the same number of migrants in France who have a valid asylum claim here. However, only 4 people have been deported under the scheme so far, including one Afghan individual who was deported to France this afternoon. The Eritrean man was granted a temporary block on his removal after he claimed he'd been a victim of modern slavery. And UK growth is set to slow sharply next year, with the OECD warning higher taxes, spending cuts and Donald Trump's tariffs will drag on the economy. The report predicts growth will fall from 1.4% this year to just 1% in 2026. It also says Britain will face one of the highest inflation rates in the G7 and still above target next year. Chancellor Rachel Reeves insists the UK economy is stronger than forecast, but admits there is more to do to help working people. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you for that, Tatiana. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. We're keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. How are you all tonight? I do hope you are all well indeed, keeping me company in the studio until 7 o'clock. I've got Reform UK councillor Jamie McIver. Alongside him, I've got the former Labour Minister, Jeff Hu. And my favourite part of the show so far, and it's only 6 minutes past 6, is Jeff was saying, well, where's the cur? I've had to point out he is the cur. You're the cur.
Well, I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted to hear it.
Yes, indeed. You know the drill. This is how this programme works. It's not just about us, because the other part of the co is, of course, you guys at home. You're always welcome to join the conversation. Get in touch in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. I can tell you, what were you doing this afternoon? Because if your answer is anything other than you were watching Donald Trump at the UN, you missed out. But it's all right, because I'm going to bring you up to speed. Let's just show you a little clip of some of what happened today.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
He had a bit of a problem, I think, with one of his auto cues. It happens to the best of us, I can tell you. What was supposed to be a 15-minute speech ended up going on for over an hour. Goodness me, I would have loved to have been a fly in that room, I can tell you. But let's cross live to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, good evening to you. What a session that was. Bring my viewers and listeners up to speed.
Yes, I think a lot of jaws were literally on the floor. Certainly Martin Daubney and myself were. It was quite incredible. So nearly an hour, he began by eviscerating the United Nations. He said, what is the purpose of the United Nations? He said that they write strongly worded letters, but they're empty words because they don't result in anything. He then went on to criticise the countries who have recognised Palestine as a state, including Britain, of course. He said that it was a reward for the Hamas atrocities, including October the 7th. Then he went on to mass migration. He had a very simple message. Your countries are going to hell. Europe is in serious trouble. He said that the globalist migration agenda had failed, and he talked about prisoner statistics in Europe. He said that foreign nationals made up 74% of the prison population in Switzerland, 54% in Greece. I fact-checked those stats. They are actually correct. The average across the EU, though, is about 20%. And then he went on to net zero. He talked about climate change, said it was a scam. He said that renewables were a joke, that they don't work. He said he hoped that the Prime Minister was listening. Talked about the North Sea. He said both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something isn't done immediately. This cannot be sustained. It reminded me rather of when JD Vance went to the Munich Security Conference, and what he had to say to Europe went down like a cup of cold sick. I think this was similar but magnified many, many times. And the irony, of course, was that Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, had been making his keynote speech at conference. He was right in the middle of bad-mouthing Nigel Farage and bad-mouthing Donald Trump. And then, of course, when Donald Trump began to speak, all of the broadcasters went immediately to listen to what he had to say. But it was like nothing else. And we know that Donald Trump makes news whenever he opens his mouth. But this was really off the chart.
So what reaction has there been since? Because, of course, he went to town on Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan, as I understand it, has responded by saying, or his spokespeople have responded by saying they're not going to dignify some of these quotes, even with a response. What other reaction has there been?
Yes, he did go after Sadiq Khan. We know that the pair of them loathe each other. Sadiq Khan had that inflatable of Trump on the last visit to London, didn't he? And Trump was saying how London had changed, and Sadiq Khan was in favour of Sharia law. Of course, Sadiq Khan has dismissed those comments. West treating the Health Secretary, also saying he's proud of the London mayor and the inclusivity of London. But look, I think there will be a lot of people absolutely horrified by what Donald Trump has said. The government, no doubt, of course, horrified. But there'll be also lots of people listening who will think he has a point.
I'm one of them, I can't lie. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Your thoughts on what you heard today?
Well, I think Donald Trump does more for Britain than the British government does in terms of calling out what needs to be called out. He's absolutely right to call out the weak European leaders for recognising a Palestinian state and rewarding terrorists. In my view and the view of most people in Britain, there is a one-state solution. It's called the State of Israel, and we cannot reward terrorists after their atrocities. Then moving on to Sadiq Khan, well, absolutely, Sadiq Khan is destroying this great city, but that's Labour ideology alongside a mayor that has no plan, never has had a plan, and every single idea goes wrong. And of course, he's absolutely right, Donald Trump, to bring up the fact that open borders, forget the British border being wide open, the European border is even worse because, of course, we do have something called the Channel, which used to actually be something that stops people coming here so easily. In fact, it's now an enabling geographical feature. But open borders to this country from countries that do not share our Western values, where people come to this country and are causing harm, they're arriving illegally and causing harm, is destroying our culture. And, of course, as someone from Epping, I can assure you that in our own community we're experiencing that trauma as well. So I think Donald Trump has absolutely nailed those three major topics. And, I think actually our government should be very embarrassed by his indictment on us.
And we'll be coming to Epping a bit later on in the programme. Worry not, ladies and gents. Jeff, your thoughts?
What I thought was interesting about what he said about immigration is that he demonstrated that this is not just a problem for the United Kingdom. All European countries, indeed all developed countries, face exactly the same problem. And we need to work together to tackle not just the fact that people can cross in boats across the Channel, which was something that the government clearly wants to stop, but at the same time ensure that the factors that cause people to leave their homes in sub-Saharan Africa, in Iran, in Afghanistan are dealt with. So this is not just a problem for the United Kingdom, and Donald Trump made that quite clear.
So when you, obviously you've got a long back catalogue of being involved in politics, etc. So when you're saying about some of the things that might make people want to leave their homes, do you look back at things like the Iraq War, for example, and think to yourself, actually, in hindsight, that might not have been the best idea because that destabilised the nation and might have led to a lot of people not wanting to be there? There
are some very significant factors around the world, and they vary from one country to another. And what we see, for example, today in Afghanistan is something that is deeply disturbing. We did our level best to try and ensure that women in Afghanistan could receive an education, that there was respect for the rule of law, that there was a degree of democracy. All of that has gone, sadly, and it's probably understandable why people flee from Afghanistan, given the kind of regime that's in power today. So there are all sorts of different factors. But you mentioned a long career in politics. One of the most interesting events that I participated in was a meeting in Morocco of the frontline countries in the north of Africa with the southern European countries. I was invited as a guest to observe what was happening. And of course, Spain, Italy, Greece face much bigger problems than we've had to deal with. And what we were looking at in that conference was trying to find ways in which to prevent people leaving their homes in sub-Saharan Africa, and of course, crucially for the countries of southern Europe, to prevent the countries of northern Africa simply waving people through, to try and encourage those countries to play their part in restricting the flow of immigrants.
Did you find yourself agreeing with some of the stuff that Donald Trump was saying then?
Well, I certainly found, on the subject of Ukraine, I found myself in agreement with what he was saying about European nations not spending money on gas and oil from Russia. It seems to me absurd for European countries who are paying something like $1 billion for equipment from the United States to gift to Ukraine. At the same time, some of them are buying buying oil and gas from Russia, contributing to Russia's ability to buy weapons themselves to attack Ukraine. So in a sense, European nations end up funding both sides of the conflict. That cannot be right.
Well, part of the problem, of course, there is that we've got a government at the moment that's obsessed with net zero and is obsessed with spending money on wind turbines that don't work when it's too windy. So, you know, absolutely Donald Trump was also right to bring up the ridiculous ideological obsession with climate change, the ideological obsession with net zero, which is making us poorer and is forcing us to rely on those ridiculous
So are you saying you disagree with now what is a generation of scientific expertise that says that climate change exists?
I disagree with the fact that politicians like to be trendy and talk about net zero at the expense of British people being able to keep their homes at an affordable price.
You're dodging the question,
Do I disagree with... There's just as many scientists that say that what those scientists say is a load of rubbish. It's just like economists. They'll all say what suits the narrative. Let's look at the facts.
So do you believe in climate change or not?
I do not believe there's a single thing that the United Kingdom can do to stop China from polluting the atmosphere, just as much as India might be, just as much as other countries. So put our own people first.
So there is climate change?
I don't think that the ridiculous ideological obsession with climate change is a real thing. What worries me is that children, when they're at school, including myself when I was at school, are all told to feel guilty for having a can of Coke because of the air miles from Atlanta. We have got to get real when things like net zero. But do I think that there's a climate emergency? No.
I'm old enough to remember being frightened out of my mind about spraying hairspray because I was told I might damage the ozone layer. And then I remember being warned about acid rain. Do you remember that one as well? Don't know how old you are.
But actually you did a great job because the ozone layer has been protected as a result of a whole generation of people not using their hairspray to cause all the problems that we were suffering from.
I hate to break it to you, I didn't do a great job because I paid no attention to it.
I can assure you that neither did any Essex boys.
I used I think it was called Inset or something. It was in a blue and white can. It was like glue. It was a spray. And once you sprayed that thing on your head, no one's hair was going anywhere. I can tell you that.
But that's it's an absolutely great example of action that has succeeded.
No, because we didn't take the action.
No, but we did take the action. For example,
don't spray your hairspray, and let me tell you now, you couldn't breathe in my school changing rooms for this Inset hairspray in Lynx, Africa.
But if you go home and look inside your fridge, you'll find that it now works in a completely different way from the way it worked before. And as a result, we've protected the ozone layer, and we've protected millions of human beings from the effects of damage to the ozone layer. So it's a great illustration.
There's a really simple solution to this, though, isn't there? Anyone that's desperately terrified about climate change, they can change their behaviour. There's loads of things that you can do, but what a lot of people tend to do is enforce and inflict their changes, their desires onto people that are not on board that bus. That's the bit that I have a bit of a problem with. Anyway, look, we could continue this conversation about acid rain, climate change and all the rest of it, but we have a lot to get through tonight together, ladies and gents. Coming up after the break, G7, the UK, it is not looking good based on figures out today. The pensioners, that has been a suggestion that that's how we fix this. Take more money off you guys. I'll see you in a minute.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in, and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Dewberry, till 7. Jamie McIver, Jeff Hoon, alongside me. Wendy said, thank you, Mr President, for saying what the British people are desperate to hear. Andy says that Trump was magnificent. Then he switches to capitals, so you know he means the next bit. He says it was the most extraordinary speech I have ever seen. We're talking about Donald Trump at the UN. If you missed that, you might want to go back and watch it. You know, it'll take you about an hour, but I actually found it absolutely fascinating. Look, we heard a lot, didn't we, about the G7, particularly when it came to growth and our performance within the G7. Well, I can tell you now, it's not particularly going to look good for this country. Stats out today, I can get a graph for you on the screen, actually, show that inflation in the G7, in the UK, is going to be the highest. This is a warning from the OECD. It's not good at all. In a minute, I'll talk about a potential solution, because it's been suggested that taxing pensioners, among other people as well, will be the solution. But for now, let's just talk about the problem. These inflation projections in the G7, do they concern you?
Obviously they do, and it's important that we deal with them as a country. One interesting thing that the OECD was saying is that actually our growth in the United Kingdom is higher than almost any other country in the G7, with the exception of the United States. So we're actually doing pretty well on growth. And
being the worst out of a bad bunch is not really an accolade, is it?
Well, the other point that's been made is that we're the fastest growing economy in the G7. So actually, I don't think these forecasts, and they are forecasts, are necessarily something that we should be despondent about. On the other hand, we should take care to avoid the problems of inflation.
Jamie?
Well, I think the problem with inflation is it's a silent killer that really harms hardworking families the most. It's people dread that food shop, prices going up. And I think the worst thing for our country at the moment, there's no light at the end of the tunnel with this government. There is no economic plan to get us out of this mess. And I think what worries me the most, Michelle, is I think of, as a councillor, my own residents who go to the food bank, how many more people are going to be in that position. But the worst thing about inflation, when I think it gets to this point, is people aren't able to be as generous as they would want to. And that restricts the economy. You start to see luxury markets suffer, whether that's high street florists, whether that's coffee shops. You start to see that contraction in the economy. And without a government with a plan to grow the economy, you start to really panic. And I think ultimately inflation is what really hurts working families' pockets the most.
I completely agree with you, and it's vitally important the government takes effective action to deal with inflation. You're absolutely right. It hits particularly those on fixed incomes. It hits those whose wage increases do not match the rate of inflation. It hits hard-working families, and we need to deal with it.
And it's no surprise, Michelle, that, of course, you know, we saw this from the first month of the Labour government, that, you know, straight to raid the pensioners, isn't it? It's all right, the pensioners can take it. And this is where we're seeing, I think, that real lack of moral judgment from the government, that, you know, the automatic assumption from these think tanks that are left-leaning is, oh, let's go and look at how many pensioners we can fleece. We saw it with the winter fuel payment, and we're seeing it now. The poor decisions that Rachel Reeves has made as soon as she's become Chancellor has had a direct impact on working people, and it has had a horrific impact on pensioners. And we talked about how the economy can contract, especially at a local level. If you look at our high streets, it is pensioners that keep those local economies going. You start attacking their income, you start attacking their way of life, you start to see the economy shrink even more at a micro level, and the government need to wake up on that.
I think it's really important that you don't confuse the views of a pressure group with the views of the Chancellor. I don't think there's any chance at all of the Chancellor imposing those kinds of decisions. There is a very clear manifesto commitment by this government not to raise income tax, and that means absolutely clearly that this recommendation will not be followed.
You can't trust the word this government says. I'm sorry. If you'd said to me last year that, you know, my grandparents would have their winter fuel payment cut, I wouldn't have believed you. I don't trust this government. They've done nothing they said they'd do.
Well, if you looked at the manifesto on which they were elected, their promises in relation to tax rises are absolutely clear. There will be no increase in national insurance, no increase in income tax, no increase in VAT. Absolutely, categorically set out, and that's what the people of this country voted for.
Yeah, but they can do things by stealth. So, for example, sure, you can write on a piece of paper, I won't increase income tax, while simultaneously freezing thresholds.
Well, except that was a policy we inherited from the Conservatives.
So what? You could change a policy.
Well, we could change the policy.
Or extend it.
But the reality is that it is necessary to raise money in taxation, to pay for the health service, to pay for the whole range of social security benefits. We have to have taxation. Otherwise, those benefits will not be payable.
No, that's not true. That is not true. You have to get spending under control. This idea that all the solutions is tax. No,
I didn't say that.
Control your spending.
I didn't say that.
Look at the Chagos still. Spend. Look at the asylum situation. Spend. Stop your spending. That's why the policy that Reform announced this week is absolutely right.
So what exactly would you cut? Whose pension would you cut? Whose benefits would you cut?
No. It's not about cuts. It's about spending. Difference. Foreign-born.
Well, if you don't spend money, there's
foreign-born people.
Sorry, if you don't spend money, there's a cut.
1 in 6 foreign-born nationals claiming off the welfare state, not contributing to our economy. These are the realistic things that this government, with the majority in the House of Commons,
How much will that save?
This is the style of thing that the government can be doing. And look at the Chagos still. That is the best example. Paying to give away a British overseas territory, which is actually a patriotic disgrace. But nevertheless, these are decisions. It's spending. We need to look at spending. It's not about taxation.
But
do not mislead people by saying you have to tax.
Save significant amounts of money compared to the bill for the health service, for social security, including pensions. That's where the bulk of British taxpayers' money goes. And you've got to say, if your party wants to save money, where the cuts will lie. And you haven't said it.
Well,
Nigel Farage hasn't said it.
We are announcing policies all the time, and the British people are very excited by our policies.
But they're you're not announcing policies about the cost of living, about how people survive. You've been very eloquent about how it is that inflation hits people, but you're not saying, your party is not saying what you will cut.
Our party is prioritising what the British people's priorities are, which something the Labour Party would do well to try and do. We've started with our immigration policy announcements, which is why we're rocketing in the polls.
What do you say about the economy?
Oh, it's very clear what we say about the economy. We need to grow the economy. We need to stop taxing people too much. We need to encourage people to work. All the things that the Labour Party could do with a majority in the House of Commons. This country's democracy runs by what Parliament does. We create laws, we get things done. That's what we can do. Labour have got a huge majority in Parliament, but you know what? Not one of those MPs can agree with one another. That's why they can't get any reforms through.
And not one policy from Reform has done anything to talk about the economy. It's all about immigration. It's all about significant factors,
because it's
but
making our country
concerned. They're not concerned with the economy. And I challenge you again. Tell me what you would cut from the health service, from pensions, from social security benefits. What would you actually reduce spending on if you want to control spending?
Well, we've just announced this week a fantastic policy on stopping foreign-born nationals from being able to be a drain on the welfare state. But I've got a better example. Just look at how the amazing Reform UK Council is being run at the moment and the savings that are going on. We spoke about net zero earlier in the programme. £30 million saved in Kent County Council, not upgrading to electric cars and all these silly things. We will do what the British people want us to do. which is to stop the inefficiency that's happening in government. And the NHS will be a minefield. Just look at how the local councils have been. Just look, for example, at their interest payments alone. There is so much that Reform are doing already in office at a local level, and that will be at a national level the minute Nigel goes into number 10.
What do you think? Do you believe what you hear or not? We were out and about talking to some of you guys, asking you how you would receive a potential tax hike hitting pensioners. Here we go.
Appalling. I don't know what else to say, really. How are we going to live?
I mean, to be fair, and she's got to raise taxes somewhere. We both pay tax, although we're pensioners. And I can see that the triple lock is getting too expensive. At some point, it's going to have to go. I mean, we're being realistic. We all have to pay our share, don't we?
Pensioners get blamed for everything, don't they?
Absolutely. We've done all our work.
We've paid our taxes all the time.
I'm a waspy woman, so they've already fiddled me out of a load of money that they don't want to give me, and now they just want to take even more.
So they're going to go for the pensioners every time.
I love those last two ladies. I want to be their friends. They didn't miss a beat with those ice creams, did they? Respect to you, ladies. Look, how do you feel about the cost of living at home? Do you feel the pinch? Are you willing to pay more tax? Let me tell you something. I think this notion of taxing people even more, whilst we're already being taxed till the pips squeak, whilst getting in return pretty much nothing, I think it's absolutely appalling. I really, really do. I do not feel like we get value for money in this country based on the tax that we already pay. What do you think? Coming up after the break, there's so much we need to discuss. Jamie is from Epping. We'll get into that situation about that fella, that paedophile that's just been sent to prison for 12 months, ladies and gents. I'll see you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Parts of Europe could see some heavy rain and some thundery downpours as we head our way into Wednesday. Mostly dry and settled across Greece, plenty of sunshine here, but through Italy, around the Adriatic coastline, also southern parts of France and Switzerland could see some heavy thundery downpours, a risk of large hail and also some strong gusty winds. Across Spain and Portugal, though, largely settled, plenty of sunshine, fairly similar across the Canary Islands too. A mostly settled end to the week with a chance of more showers heading into the weekend and temperatures in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. You might need to turn your heating on again tonight as it is going to turn a little chilly once more with some clear skies and light winds, all due to an area of high pressure, the perfect ingredients for our temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Worth bearing in mind, we still have an occluded front across parts of the southeast, so a few showery bursts still to come here and a bit of showery rain pushing into some eastern parts overnight as well, but otherwise it is a dry picture with some lengthy clear skies. Like I said, those temperatures will be dropping. Towns and cities falling to mid to high single figures. Rural spots dipping close to or perhaps even a little bit below freezing in some places. So a touch of grass frost, even a bit of air frost perhaps, particularly across some parts of Scotland. Now, as we go through tomorrow morning, still some showers across parts of East Anglia and maybe Kent, and there may be a few other showers across southern parts through tomorrow itself, but generally dry. A band of cloud with some outbreaks of rain lingering across some central and northern parts of England. A dry start across Northern Ireland and mostly bright and fine across parts of Scotland, albeit just a little bit of cloud and a few spots of rain towards the far east and southeast. Through the day itself, that band of cloud and any rain's going to fizzle out as it gradually edges a bit further westward. So apart from one or two showers towards the south and maybe across some parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a dry picture by the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Yes, clouds building through the day, but some decent sunshine on offer, and in the sunshine feeling warm enough even though temperatures are a touch below average for the time of year. Another chilly night to come as we go through tomorrow night and into Thursday, and then a fine picture through Thursday itself for most, though some blustery winds towards the northwest and also towards the southeast, and here there will be a bit more cloud and perhaps one or two showers. More fine weather on Friday, but by Saturday, well, that's when we could see a band of rain pushing its way in. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24.
sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 westbound at junction 7A, a broken down vehicle is causing restrictions. The M53 northbound at junction 9 adds about 15 minutes to your journey. The M1 northbound entry slip at junction 20 in Leicestershire is closed following a collision. In Bedfordshire, congestion on the A1 southbound between junctions with the A603 and A6001, Biggleswade North causes 15-minute delays. The M5 southbound exit slip at junction 21 in North Somerset is partly closed due to vehicle breakdowns. On the trains, disruptions are noted between Crewe and Stafford, with issues from Bedford to Bletchley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, Michelle Dewberry till 7 o'clock. Reform UK Councillor Jamie McIver and the former Labour Minister Jeff Hoon are alongside me. One of my viewers has just got in touch and said, Michelle, what we need right now is an urgent general election. That's not going to happen. I hate to break it to you, that is not going to happen anytime soon. So you need to strap yourselves in, ladies and gents, and we get through all of this together. That's what I say. Anyway, look, we all know what's occurred in Epping because, of course, the Bell Hotel, one of those residents, they call them, a not-so-small boat migrant, he was accused of sexually assaulting children and a grown adult as well. That led, of course, to protests. Well, today that fella has now been sentenced to 12 months in jail. Now, this is your area, isn't it? This is your patch, for want of a better word. What do you think to this?
Well, I mean, my heart sinks for the family. I know they're hurting, and I just think this is just an insult, this sentence. But I think the worst thing about this for me, Michelle, is he's already served months on remand. He could potentially be out before Christmas. This is just a great example of why this country is just in such a bad way. But you know something? I was looking today. There is a direct flight from Heathrow to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia tonight at 9 o'clock. Why is this person not on that flight? This person does not deserve to be in Britain. They need to be deported immediately. And I think he's already said he wants to go, which I find quite remarkable as well. But my heart is with the family. But Michelle, the people of Epping have been peacefully protesting, and they've been called all sorts because they called out this man for what he allegedly had done. The mums, the young girls there have been called far right this, far right that. Even the Prime Minister starts to allude to people that are concerned about women's safety as far right. And I think they've been vindicated today by this sentence. I think the verdict was a vindication of those mums who have been peacefully protesting week in, week out. It's been an honour to join them. They are brave, courageous women. They've forgot about their careers because many of them are worried about what their boss might say if they're on camera at one of these protests, which is outrageous for democracy. But I am delighted for those women that have been standing up against this government and this awful hotel decision, because they have been proven today. We've had an asylum seeker who was in this country, sorry, I shouldn't say asylum seeker, an illegal migrant, came to this country on a boat, sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform, was then arrested, charged, convicted and now sentenced. Those mums in Epping are vindicated.
And just to be clear as well, this fella did this 8 days after he'd arrived in this country, a week basically. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, it's quite right that he's being punished, and as I understand it, the Home Office have already said that he will be deported at the end of his sentence. So not only is he being punished, he will also be sent back to where he came from. So that seems to me absolutely right.
Let me tell you the story. So if you're not familiar, I'll tell you the story about this fella. So he comes into this country, breaks the law, not so small boats. I hate that we call these things small boats. They're absolutely massive. They've got the capacity of like a double-decker bus now. But anyway, he comes into this country. These school kids are sitting on the front. They're eating some pizza. He wanders over. He feels hungry. The kid turns around. The girl turns around to him and says, basically, are you hungry? Do you want a bit of food? This fella then turns round to this young girl, basically tries to kiss her and invites her back to the hotel to, quote, try and make a a baby. She feels really uncomfortable, off they go. The next night or a couple of nights later, they're sitting back on the same bench, same fella comes over again, starts making sexually suggestive comments to this young girl, 14-year-old girl dressed in a school uniform. A boy has to come and sit between the two of them. The child feels so uncomfortable. A woman witnesses this, goes off and gets a piece of paper to make some details about who this young girl is, try and help her. Comes back, the guy then hits on her, sexually assaults her as well. One of the most alarming things that I read during the sentencing today is this fella said that actually he didn't realise how strict the UK was. And because of this, he now wants to be deported. The judge, after hearing that this fellow was telling all kinds of lies, saying, oh, he had a bit of mental health problems, couldn't really speak English, whatever, the judge was having none of that and said that he has an appalling regard for women. Now, this is the problem that many people have, Jeff. These fellas are coming from, and I'm just going to be quite honest and call it as it is, they're quite backward cultures, particularly in their regard for women. They don't have the same regard for women and girls, etc., as we do in westernised societies. When he doesn't realise that he can't get away with trying to make babies with a 14-year-old girl and then just basically groping anyone that basically passes his mitts, how do you deal with this? How can anyone not feel concerned about having, 100 of these guys at the end of their road when they've got children, when they've got schools? How is anyone that's right thinking not going to be concerned about that?
Well, he is being punished at this moment, and that's absolutely the right thing that should happen.
That's not my question. My question is, this fella was caught. The woman, by the way, bravo to the lady, she chased after the guy. She was having absolutely none of it. She chased after the guy, caught up with him, and that's why he was caught. My point is, this guy is not just a random lone individual. He represents a mindset that will be, I would argue, prevalent across a lot of these men, that they think that they can come into this country and sexually assault little girls, young girls and women, because in their hometowns or their cultures or whatever it is, that might be the thing that they do. He clearly thought he could get away with that. He can't believe it, that we're so strict, we don't allow it. So what do we then do by the fact that this government and the previous ones are importing these men en masse and putting them in people's residential streets?
I think it's really important that we don't generalise from what is a very bad case. We should not stigmatise every single person who comes into this country.
I didn't.
Well, you were implying that everyone has the same values as this man, and I don't think that's right.
No, I didn't, and let me tell you this. This is what people do. Instead of addressing the concern that I'm presenting to you, which is a valid concern that's been demonstrated and concluded in this particular case, instead of addressing the concern that I'm raising, you're trying to make me out to be like an awful, perhaps racist person that makes out that everyone is like this. I never suggested, nor did I say, that everyone is like this. What I'm saying to you is that there will be a substantial number of men that are coming from these cultures that do not regard women or children as anything other than fair game. How do we deal with that?
Well, I don't accept that that is the case. And by suggesting that large numbers of men from those countries behave in this way is exactly the criticism I'm making of what you said. I don't believe for a moment that large numbers of men behave like this.
Do you read the news story?
One has behaved like this, and he is being punished at this moment, which is the right thing to do.
With all due respect, you are a very intelligent man. You must know that this is not an unfortunate, isolated incident. You must know that. You must yourself read news reports, etc. There are scores of these now where men have just helped themselves to women and or girls. You must read these stories and think to yourself, there is a little bit of a pattern going on here. You must, surely.
I'm not making any excuses or any apologies for people who break the law. And it's important that we deal with it through the law. No, I've already discussed this evening Afghanistan. I've been to Afghanistan many times and I've seen what that country is like. I've seen the appalling way that they treat women. I've seen the dreadful consequences for women who can't go to school, who can't be educated, who can't even now read books written by women. It's an appalling situation. And I accept that many other countries in the world do not have the values that we have.
Right, so then you must accept that people coming from those places, I mean, surely you don't think that they're immune to what's going on in their culture. They don't like all of this is going on. You've just described they're doing all these awful things with women. You don't then think that en masse all of these men are then immune to that, do you?
No, I'm not saying they are. But what I'm saying is that if they break the law, they should be punished. And that's what's happened in this case.
Punishment. 12 months in prison. I mean, I tell you what, if that fella had gone on social media and tweeted about himself and his mates in the hotel, he'd have got a longer prison sentence than he currently got. So I think we live in an absolute scandalous clown world, ladies and gents, and I feel that this government and previous ones are risking the safety of us citizens, particularly us women and indeed our children in this country. It does not wash with me, this argument, oh, they're not all this, they're not all that. No one said they're all this and no one said they're all that, but it is undeniable that many of them are. And why should anyone have to take the chance? Oh, well, is that a good one at the end of my road or a bad one? I think it's absolutely disgusting.
So what's the solution?
What's my solution?
Close the hotels next to school.
No, I don't even want to talk about hotels. My solution is stop them making the crossing. You wouldn't be in a hotel under my watch. You wouldn't be in the country. That would be me. I would have the Navy or whoever it is actually patrolling the borders, protecting the borders and doing whatever it takes to stop these men feeling that they can get in a massive boat and get all of this access to this country and everything it presents. That is what the solution is. Stop them coming into this country.
They're coming from countries that have alien cultures to this country.
Right, look, I've been told 5,000 times in my ear now that I have to go to a break for no other reason than just timings. I've really messed my timing up. Then everyone gets in touch and says, oh, Michelle, you're always on a break. It's me. I've messed it up. I apologise. I'll see you in a minute.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Jamie McIver and Jeff Hoon. I do apologise to you all. I get quite exercised about this subject, about the safety of women and girls. I can't help myself. But I should have helped myself, actually, because I want to hear more from you. I didn't even give you a beat to respond. And you are the councillor in Epping, Epping Forest. So how would you respond to Jeff?
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because when people try to have an adult conversation about suggesting that people coming to this country illegally are coming from countries where their culture is frankly foreign from this country, where women are treated very differently to how the West treats women. And no, not every single person in those countries that live in those countries are like that. But there is a huge critical mass of young men that do not show respect towards women. And you can see it with this case. And there are so many other cases. This is a high-profile one. There is a young girl allegedly raped in Nuneaton, again from an illegal migrant. What we know is that they do not respect women, and that is why women are not safe where these hotels are. In Epping, I am factually correct to say women are not safe to walk near that hotel, which is why it has to close. It's next to a school. This girl was in her school uniform, and the defendant in this case said, "I didn't realise the rules here were so strict." That tells you all you need to know about where that man came from.
Right, so where do you want these people moved to then?
These people, first of all, the hotel should not be there because of where it is. It's near a school. It was closed by the previous government. This current government ashamedly reopened it, and the Conservative Council failed to close it. Where should these people go? They should be deported. There is only one way to deal with illegal migration, and that is to deport people.
But where do they go in the meantime then?
They need to be in camps, and they need to be deported. The minute they arrive here, Michelle, they need to be arrested, detained and deported. And the closer that detention centre could be to an airport, the better. In fact, I kind of welcome that Gatwick's getting an extra runway and Heathrow, because that means that by the time reform get in, we'll be able to have as many flights as possible. We need RAF bases being used. There are plenty of places in this country, Michelle.
But people don't want that. You've got Scampton, which is a disused base, and there's Scampton process. I used to drive by it all the time. It's not far away from Hull, if you don't know where it is. And they had like a camp, a 24/7 camp that they were protesting. They didn't want that base being used.
Just as quickly as we built Nightingale hospitals during COVID, we need to build detention centres, we need to detain and deport. But the thing is, Michelle, when we do that, they will stop coming. That's the point. They're leaving France because they come here for an easy ride. When we stop giving them benefits, stop giving them hotels, they will stop coming.
We're almost out of time, but anything you want to respond to that, Jeff?
The reality is that we have to apply the law. The government have made quite clear that they want to close hotels, made quite clear that they want to accelerate the timetable for doing so. But at the same time, we also have to apply not only our own law, but we have to apply international law.
Why?
We have a parliament, we could change laws.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
The reality is this country has, as its main preoccupation, the rule of law, as its main tradition, democracy, as its main rights, freedom of speech. These are vitally important aspects of our society. And if you start chipping away at that, which is what reform wants to do, then many other aspects of our society will collapse.
You think, I mean, I find it interesting that you think it's reform that want to chip away at that. You talk about free speech, a fundamental tenet of democracy. Are you telling me seriously that you don't think the Labour Party are chipping away at free speech in this country?
I can't see any evidence for that at all.
Goodness. Right, me and you, we need a night on the town, me and you, Jeff, and we're not going to be dancing and drinking, my friend. We're going to be reading news reports. I'm going to be showing you all kinds of information. It's going to make your hair curl, Jeffrey, because I don't know what you read and where you read it, but if you don't think that the Labour Party are chipping away at free speech, goodness gracious me. Look, I apologise for getting on my high horse tonight, ladies and gents. Oh, I can't help it. Sometimes I do need to get things off my chest. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you to my panel. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. We're going out. Night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. You might need to turn your heating on again tonight, as it is going to turn a little chilly once more, with some clear skies and light winds, all due to an area of high pressure, the perfect ingredients for our temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Worth bearing in mind, we still have an occluded front across parts of the southeast, so a few showery bursts still to come here, and a bit of showery rain pushing into some eastern parts overnight as well. But otherwise, it is a dry picture with some lengthy clear skies. Like I said, those temperatures will be dropping. Towns and cities falling to mid to high single figures, areas. Rural spots dipping close to or perhaps even a little bit below freezing in some places. So a touch of grass frost, even a bit of air frost perhaps, particularly across some parts of Scotland. Now, as we go through tomorrow morning, still some showers across parts of East Anglia and maybe Kent, and there may be a few other showers across southern parts through tomorrow itself, but generally dry. A band of cloud with some outbreaks of rain lingering across some central and northern parts of England. A dry start across Northern Ireland and mostly bright and fine across parts of Scotland, albeit just a little bit of cloud and a few spots of rain towards the far east and southeast. Through the day itself, that band of cloud and any rain's going to fizzle out as it gradually edges a bit further westward. So apart from one or two showers towards the south and maybe across some parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a dry picture by the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Yes, clouds building through the day, but some decent sun